Guys, there's been a lot to think about the past few weeks, okay? And from these past two games we've had against the 49ers and the Steelers, I've really had some good thinking. I'm thinking that there are some players that are regressing and have to be out of here. There is a quarterback that we have right now that has played very well the past 2 weeks. The 49ers game wasn't as great, but it was a lot more improved than the previous 3 weeks from Carson Wentz. This Steelers game he did a really fantastic job. He did. I mean, the pick wasn't his fault. Zach Ertz was picked. It ruined his route running. Should have been a penalty. It got picked off. That's just the way it goes. But as I have been criticizing him not being the same since the injury in 2017, I have seen a trend of what he has tried to do this year. I think he's put on some weight. I think he looks a little bit slower. But, I've seen in this Steelers game that he looked his very best, probably could look better. I know he could look better than this because at least if he was showing me, it gave me a good insight of what that I at least know that he could play better. Because if I figured he was going to play like that the first 3 weeks of the season, then we'd have a huge problem. But what I've come to realize is this, guys. Carson Wentz hasn't had a number one receiver at all. Period. He hasn't. Since 2016 when he was drafted here, who has he really had here that you can really count on every single play of the series? Not much. Jordan Matthews, Dorial Green Beckham, Bryce Treggs. I mean, I don't even know at this point. Carson Wentz did a fantastic job in 2019. Last month of the season, had to win out against the NFC East, against a bad division, to win and go to the playoffs. And Carson Wentz put the team on his shoulders. And I was proud, and that was something on good insight to look into 2020, but with no offseason, with no preseason games, with barely any practice grass time. This team was not ready to play. I could definitely see that the team was not ready to play this year. They were not prepared. And every team, there's some teams that work better. And through adversity of this offseason, there were some teams that didn't. And we were one of those teams. We've only won one game. Okay? So we're 1-3-1 right now. It's not good. Carson Wentz finally found a receiver. Now, I'm not comparing receivers. I'm not saying that Rager's not going to be there. I'm not saying that Greg Ward isn't a good receiver. I'm not saying any of that because I'm very high on Greg Ward. I think we should resign him. I think we should. Hightower looks great, looks good. I think he can look better. Obviously, he dropped one in the back of the end zone. But to come to the receivers for Carson Wentz, Travis Fulgham looked like he was a number one receiver for the Eagles. And in 2 games, going over 200 yards in 2 games. An Eagles receiver hasn't got that many yards in 2 weeks in 14 years. Okay? When Travis Fulgham was catching all those balls, it really showed me that Wentz really needs that guy. Wentz needs that number one guy. And Deshaun Jackson does not count because Doug is not using him as a number one receiver. Doug is using him as a decoy. Doug is using him as Deshaun Jackson's lined up, and that's all that he wants to show. He doesn't want to show him going for a deep ball. Nothing. Okay? Obviously, the Eagles have tried passing to him, but it was really bad early in the season. John Hightower is coming along. I don't know what's going on, but, he's getting increased snaps. I see him getting more snaps, and he's got to catch more balls. He's got to make the big plays for us. So I'm waiting for that to happen. I think John Hightower is just not there yet. Quez Watkins had, I think, like a snap. They tried throwing to him one time. Arcega-Whiteside pretty much had one catch in the Steelers game in garbage time at the half. Okay, when we pretty much messed up throwing to Fulgham, and the clock kept running when he went out of bounds, and I don't know why. It was over 20 seconds and kind of wasted a lot of time. But Travis Fulgham really showed me that Carson needs that number one guy. And the thing is, we can't do this to the point where we're just constantly every year getting new receivers, switching guys. And another part of it is half the guys we have came and stay healthy. Alshon Jeffrey, goodbye. Zach Ertz, he's looked horrible. Okay? The Mr. Reliable target is healthy, but is not putting in any work. His separation's not looking great. Zach Ertz has not looked pretty good. And don't tell me it's because of his contract negotiations, because some Eagles fans are dumb because they're like, oh, well, it's because of his contract negotiations. Shout out to Nitro Freak because he actually made a video about it, and it really made sense because why would you want a player like that to play for your team if he's doing that? Why would you want him to be on your team if he's not playing 100% because of contracts and you still want that guy on your team? Get out of here. Just get out of here. Stick with Dallas Goedert as your future tight end. Call it a day. No more 12-man personnel. I'm not saying they can never do it, but lighten up on it a little bit. Give other people opportunities. Whiteside has not been a factor. Probably will never be a factor. There are too many wide receivers right now that are productive. Travis Fulgham proved that, and I'm not saying Travis Fulgham is a number one guy. Right now he's the number one guy, but is he the number one guy for the Eagles? Probably not, but he's sure as hell productive to be a number two. He's probably a number two, but close to a number one, or very close. Carson Wentz proved last year he could do it on his own, but this year he can't. Most years he can't. Okay? Because when you really think about it, guys, played a season, got hurt in 17, that injury lingered into the middle of 2018, tried coming back, then Nick Foles took over again. 2019 came, bad first quarter of the year, thought we were done, came back the last month and played his tail off. Beat a bad division with nobodies, with walk-ons, Robert Davis, all these guys that we had. Okay? Found that Boston Scott, found that Greg Ward were gems and ready to play. And because of the Eagles having their favoritism on veteran guys, never letting the young guys play, we could never find out what these guys had on our roster. Because why even draft guys like Davion Taylor? Why draft guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? Why draft guys that barely hit the field? Either they don't hit the field at all, or they hit the field and don't produce, or they don't even do anything. Travis Fulgham proved Carson needs that number one guy. And do I think Carson can flourish with that number one guy? Yes. The answer is yes. If Carson Wentz played, got into a playoff game, he had over 4,000 yards last year, got into a playoff game, beat the NFC East, won a division with receivers that didn't even have over 500 yards. Okay, some of you guys know that stat. Some people don't know. Carson Wentz had receivers that don't even have 500 yards receiving. I mean, that's how bad it was. And there are other quarterbacks out there like Daniel Jones, like guys that have guys, but the quarterbacks can't produce. When I see Carson Wentz, that chemistry I was seeing to chemistry that was just Wentz to Fulgham. He could have passed to him on every single pass of the whole series. I mean, that showed me that Carson Wentz, he can't do it by himself. He needs that reliable target. He needs that number one guy. And Fulgham played like a number one guy. Not saying that he's officially a number one for the Eagles. As of right now, he is. But I'm saying with Rager's not even in the offense yet. If Doug Peterson could get the stick out of his butt and do something with these guys, you could have a really good offense. You could have a brand new offensive line with Jordan Mailata and Nate Herbig. And what the hell, these offensive linemen are looking pretty good. Plus, you can have a brand new wide receiver core, a young core that can grow with Carson Wentz, a young, great core with great depth. It's not a rebuild, and all these Eagles fans are saying rebuild. It's a tweak. I've always said it was just going to take a tweak, and all the Eagles had to do was just let these young guys play. Because I tell you right now, if Alshon Jeffrey never got injured, if Deshaun Jackson never got injured, they would still be in the game. Deshaun Jackson's not being used as number one receiver, so why would I want him on the field if they're not? They're just using him for sideline passes. He's not supposed to be here for side. I mean, he could be here for whatever he wants, but they're barely even throwing to him. And the guy can't stay healthy. You got young guys on this team, young, hungry guys on this team that want to do right. So do the right thing. Carson Wentz and Travis Fulgham. It proved to me, I was like, Carson plays better when there is a monster out there, period. Because when Carson's down a couple scores, he's got to try to throw the ball through a small window. He's got no choice. Like that last interception he had at the end of the game, he just threw it up. He had no choice. He had to. I mean, it was going to get picked off regardless. He had to try to force a throw, and that's what he does. When he's down by more than a score, when it's a two, you got to score twice. Forget it. He's forcing balls and he gets picked off, and he doesn't have that reliable guy. But Travis Fulgham, thank to the makers, thank to the football gods, and thank God Howie Roseman or no one released him. Thank God we found out about Travis Fulgham. Thank God, because you know what? This guy right here just turned everything around. Even though we lost the Steelers game, I was actually happy about the turnout of what some of these players did. And Travis Fulgham was that guy that I said, wow, Carson actually has a reliable target that he can rely on in a football game. And this is without Rager. I mean, this is without some of our good guys on the field right now. And you add Rager to the mix of that, plus Hightower gets to play a little bit better, opening some things up. You got a wide receiver core that nobody's going to want to mess with, that a lot of people are going to underestimate because they don't have the attention in the NFL. They don't have that, oh, look at me. They don't have that Odell Beckham attention. They don't have that. But who cares about that? Because you know what? They just want to play. Travis Fulgham, quiet guy, doesn't say much, but when he plays football, he's on point. 152 yards and 8 receptions, whatever it was. I mean, that's just ridiculous. 70-something yards in the 49ers game. It just built up to that moment to figure that Carson could actually play better with a number one guy. It's really crazy to think about. It's just, you really see it. Like, it really turned my whole mind around. Do I think Carson Wentz is perfect? No, right now he's not. But he played a really good game. Unfortunately, our defense did most of the damage against the Steelers. But what I could take from this game is Carson Wentz and Travis Fulgham showed me that Carson could flourish with a number one. With an absolute, not a guy that's supposed to be number one, a guy not putting Nelson Aguilar from the slot to the outside, which we've done before, putting Jordan Matthews from the slot to the outside, which we've done before, an actual number one. Travis Fulgham, Rager might be that number one guy, but Travis Fulgham is almost he's between a 1 and a 2. He's right there. And that's great. And I'm very happy about it. So, sorry about the long video, guys, but this is something that has to be said because that's my eyes opened up. I said, whoa, I've never seen this before. So, that's all I got to say, guys. I will see you guys later. SHAKESQUAD up. Fly, fly. Peace out, guys. Peace.